The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, fresh calls for the death penalty to be enforced as crime and the fear of crime continues. These calls come as the government of Trinidad and Tobago enforce COVID-like measures in a state of emergency to address crime in that country. Also tonight, the 38-year-old man suspected in the death of 12-year-old Adriel Moxy arraigned today. But it's his backstory that's not only puzzling but frightening. My Hot Topics panel discusses it tonight. And 9 people in hospital tonight injured after a gas tank explodes in the middle of Sunday afternoon. We take a look and also an in-depth discussion at the industry of propane gas and its delivery. How is it regulated, or is it? And is it time to change how cooking gas is issued? It's all straight ahead for you this evening. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, a 38-year-old man arraigned today charged with the brutal murder of 12-year-old Adriel Moxy. Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernanda revealed this to reporters late last week, if you all can remember. Now, before his arraignment, police hosted a news conference earlier today at the Criminal Investigation Department to discuss the suspect, the charges, and his admitting to having killed at least 6 people. Here's Linton Ritchie Jr.
At this current time, we have one individual in our custody who has been charged with that matter. He is on his way to court at 12 noon today.
It was around 1:20 p.m. that alleged serial killer was revealed to the courts today as 39-year-old Chris Ferguson of Misty Close. Silence blanketed the courtroom as Ferguson walked from behind the bench, shackled at the feet, dressed in all blue, preparing to have his charges read to him by Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley in connection to the gruesome murder of 12-year-old Adriel Moxy. But what led police to receive enough for Ferguson to be charged?
Based on our investigation and during the time of our investigation, he has provided additional information that we are satisfied that he has been able to direct us additionally into areas and directed us, and we have been able to locate some physical evidence that has connected us to that particular scene.
As a result of the evidence gathered, Ferguson stood with his head up as he was charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of unlawful detention, and 3 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse, all alleged to have taken place on November 18th, 2024, just 2 days before young Adriel's lifeless body was discovered through a track road partially clad. And just a little over a month later, investigators returned to the scene, reportedly with Ferguson, following his alleged confession, where he reportedly led them to some key belongings of Adriel.
We have located the school bike with that young child. It has been identified by family members, along with some additional physical evidence. As
for any DNA that could officially link Ferguson,
we have obtained specimens that we are sending off. That they should be on their way.
While no family of Adriel or Ferguson was present for the arraignment, a number of activists filled the courtroom, one being Candy Gibson. Gibson says this should be a clarion call for the death penalty.
This should come to the media and the public as the worst of the worst. Because look what he did to that 12-year-old girl, Adriel Moxy, had a bright future and he chose not to give her future. There should be no longer a future for him.
Hours before Ferguson made his court appearance, authorities shut down any rumors of him allegedly being beaten into a confession.
Based on the information that was provided to them, they were able to sit down with this individual. They were able to put that information to him, and he he was satisfied that the officers, I guess, had the relevant information, and he shared what he had to say with the officers.
Near tears, Gibson says the violence against the vulnerable must stop.
I come out here because I'm an advocate. I come out here because I have a daughter. I come out here because I have nieces. I come out here because I have a sister and I have a mother. And that's why I'm out here. Enough now is enough.
So, gentlemen, of course, we're going to get into some hot topics discussion in a minute, but you all heard that, of course, the news conference before his arraignment at the CID, Criminal Investigation Department. Just to hear, though, what is being said or what he is purporting to have done, I imagine this investigation has now turned into something totally different than being charged with the 12-year-old's murder. But, gentlemen, I want to bring you all in. We're going to get into some hot topics discussion right now with our Beyond the Headlines contributors, Leslie Miller, Michael Turnquest. Good evening to both of you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good evening, Shanique.
Good evening, Bahamas.
Good evening, Bahamas.
It's good to have you back. It is so frightening. Bahamians are happy that this appears to be based on CCTV evidence, based on DNA results, that to be the person that is more than likely responsible for Adriel murder. We also hear this gentleman late last week, and we saw the police address some issues there, admit to killing over a 12-year period, having killed a number of people in Grand Bahama. And then come here in New Providence in the month of, I think it was Adriel when? October, was it?
October.
Just ended that 12-year-old's life in such a cruel and inhumane way and such a depraved way. Gentlemen, let us just talk about how this case is now shaping up and the fact that some cases that have been cold cases or perhaps already thought solved by the police in that there were no leads, that this gentleman is brought up and brought back to the forefront.
Shanique, one would think that, like you said, we would hope that those 6 other individuals are cold cases, whereas though they was unsolved. But imagine those 6 names that are called, if they are considered solved by the police and we have somebody, some innocent persons or person sitting in Fox Hill, spending whether it be 12, 8, 9 years, we have just then created another criminal. Because I can tell you, there's no reform in Fox Hill from what we have seen, coming out of Fox Hill prison. So, that's the scary part as relates to, if he's admitted to killing 6 other individuals, who is sitting in Fox Hill? And I hope there's nobody sitting in Fox Hill for those crimes, But if there is, that really puts a very gray cloud over the Royal Bahamas Police Force in terms of and the country, because we've seen, we spoke about it again, we need the police, and we thank the police for things that the work that they have done is not easy, especially with the crime rate continuously rising. But we have to take these matters very seriously and not just we grab someone and throw him in jail. This is the person, and for him to say he's killed 6 more. Like I said, I can only pray to God that those are cold cases. They were unsolved, and those persons were still looking for the killers or killer for those persons who would have been murdered in Grand Bahama.
I think one involved a house fire in Grand Bahama where there were no leads, and so as a result, the police had to kind of sort of, again, cold case, and so not sure if anyone was arrested in that regard. But Leslie, this is quite startling to hear in our midst. I mean, we would see crime stories and whatnot in our neighbors to the north. We see stuff like this. We have serial killers in our neighbors to the north. For this gentleman to up and volunteer this information after committing such a heinous crime to a 12-year-old. This is quite startling and frightening.
This is so frightening that we have among us a serial killer over the past several years has admitted to killing 6 innocent persons. And this is not the first time this has happened.
No.
From Grand Bahama, you realize that. Remember about 15, 20 years ago, we had this random killer in Grand Bahama
with
who
the
now
5 boys.
Has come to New Providence.
Yeah.
And you got to ask them for the other family islands that someone is missing in, that they would have been responsible for their death. This is very, very frightening. Us as a society, because we don't know who is here among us. First, the fellow who they say had a mental problem was blamed for Ariel's death. and now there's sufficient proof to have arrested him and charged him today that he's the one responsible for her death, in addition to these other 6 deaths. And who else? Innocent people have been killed. Who else among us, our family members or friends that went missing, and we're trying to figure out what happened to this person, or this unsolved mystery? What is the police doing? Do they have a special unit that never closes these cases? Because an unsolved murder should never be closed. Now, I know years ago, Guard Johnson used to be responsible for a unit of the force, but never letting these things just slip out of our minds and out of our midst. And I wonder if these, I'm so taken aback by this.
I mean,
it's beyond belief.
You almost lost. I mean, one would ask, we keep talking about capital punishment. I mean, this is clearly a case where I'm sure a person would say, this person does not deserve to live. I mean, we have to get serious. Our crime,
Well, the
murder,
again, you wouldn't be able to kill again.
See, but you wouldn't be able to kill again.
Wouldn't be able to kill again.
That's for sure.
Because,
After the first one,
this is where we put individuals like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll never see the light of day, in terms of outside a prison cell. But,
Yeah, but we don't need to pay that $65
Exactly.
or $68 and change a day for someone like him for the next 20, 30 years.
But Shanique, it goes back to, the other day with the killings that happened at the barber shop. Innocent people, you have young men running around, just, to me, this state is becoming, is lawless. The incoming commissioner has a lot of work to do, but at the end of the day, the government also, a lot of this lies on the government's shoulders, on the lawmakers in terms of making sure whether we can put, capital punishment is on the books.
Yes.
Either we're going to use it or let's take it off, but we got to get serious. We have to get serious if we want to curtail this act that we have going on, or what we call this is almost like a regular way of living now.
To interrupt this trend.
Yeah,
interrupt it.
To see the way that people react to when persons' lives are lost, people on murder scenes. Years ago, people never wanted to see a dead body, but now you see people walking around dead bodies.
Because we've become a desensitized society,
Yes.
Michael. We have become so desensitized that it's numbed. Let's not forget that. Numbed.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're almost moving on automatic to try and get the video so you can be the first one to share it and to post it. All of this hunger and thirst for blood is what I call it, and some sort of notoriety has again numbed and desensitized the Bahamian public.
It's like we're raising animals.
But the government's primary job is the protection of its people. That's the first protection of the government. Protect your people. Protect the innocent.
But Les, you realize nobody in today's society people are not even moving about the way they used to be, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
People are not 8 or 7 o'clock. You see, people are trying to get home in their homes. They're trying to make sure windows are locked, doors are locked. I mean, if you give them some more master locks, they'll put locks on the door. People do not feel safe.
We are gradually becoming an unordered society.
Yeah. We have to get serious.
Where anything goes.
No, it is really disturbing, the fact that, you're right, quality of life has been disturbed.
Yes.
People's social, and we all are social beings. We should be able to go and socialize as we wish, however you wish, whether it's out dinners and whatever it is. But people have stopped all those behaviors. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But the question is, how could this, you got to name him as a subhuman, could have gotten away for so long to kill 6 people and admit to it because of he got caught with the little girl, and he's admitting to 6 other murders that has happened. What period of time?
From 2012.
What span?
From 2012.
2012.
From 2012.
I'm sure everybody would want to know
alleging.
who
That's 12 years.
who the
He's
person,
alleging,
who
yes.
this person
12
is. Because I'm pretty sure you and I both want to know, and the Bahamas want to know, have me and this person sat down,
Exactly.
break bad.
God knows.
Like nobody knows. Like we
knows?
have not known what he's been doing in society for the past 12 years. We know that he did 6 murders, but I'm pretty sure there's spans between that, whereas though he sat amongst the public.
And how is it that for 12 years he's under the radar? That the police is not even aware of his existence?
Well, that is the habits, and that's the movements of
How's
serial
that?
killers. That is how serial killers
How's
move.
that?
Who knew we had them in the Bahamas? But
Exactly.
that is how serial killers move.
This would be the second one.
Well, the second,
we had one before.
The second one, exactly.
Not the first one.
Well, gentlemen, tonight, one of you mentioned it, but tonight Bahamians are renewing calls for the death penalty to be enforced. It's on the books. They want it enforced. It's something that governments appear reluctant to do. But many feel the death penalty is part of the solution needed to instill fear and the law of fear of the law among Bahamians once again. Delano Roca has more, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Morality versus ethics remains a long-standing point of contention in the Bahamas. Now, after years of rising crime and incessant calls for stronger protocols, many we spoke to are sharing their opinions on the death penalty.
So I feel like the death penalty should be inflicted today now, because I feel like it would deter others from committing the same crimes that people are now committing in the Bahamas. And also, not only that, I feel like it would scare them more to not commit these crimes. I'm very afraid to go places, especially in the night, because of these crimes being committed here and there. And it becomes so constant nowadays. So I feel like doing that, especially towards men, makes women more comfortable to go out or what's not, because now they know that, if they do commit these crimes, that they would be punished for it.
I believe in the death penalty with the amount of murders that we have in this country. I believe it will be a deterrent, because I believe in what the Bible says. If a man takes another man's life, then that man should die. And so I believe in the death penalty. Despite what the Privy Council may say, they live on another side of the world, we live on this side. And they don't know the effects that we feel in the country as Bahamians. The amount of murders is just too high. And so we must be able to put a dent. And I believe the death penalty will be a deterrent.
While many Bahamians support capital punishment, others are in opposition, arguing that it leaves room for reversible mistakes and questions of fairness.
So my opinion on the death penalty is that when implemented, it may curb it, but then there may be some casualties, whereas persons who are innocent being charged before the courts are found guilty and they didn't commit and they're killed for the crime somebody else committed. So if we are going to implement it, there ought to be some stringent guidelines to ensure that the right person is being held accountable for what they did. I also believe that if we start our formation from the home, we won't necessarily have to be concerned about the death penalty. So if parents would do what they ought to do, the church would do what they ought to do, stop depending on the government to fix all of our problems, I think we'll be a little bit better as a country and move forward together.
The police beating you, so you can't have a fair trial either which way, because they beating you to tell the truth even if it ain't the truth. So on death penalty, they got to fix the country first before they say do death penalty. And that's my little 5 cents.
Correct criminal is found, I'm all for it, especially for those persons, child killers, serial killers, definitely.
The debate around capital punishment takes on a complex dimension in the Bahamas, where the Privy Council has blocked the death penalty in practice, even in high-profile cases. The Privy Council's stance is based on the criterion that capital punishment should only be applied in the worst of the worst cases, leaving many Bahamians frustrated by the system's inability to act. As the new year approaches, the consensus remains clear. The people want to feel safe, whether through capital punishment or other crime-fighting measures. Action is needed to address this persistent problem. Delano Roker, Eyewitness News.
And so, guys, you see there, gentlemen, in that story by Delano, Bahamians are saying largely, listen, in order for the Bahamas to return to some semblance of normalcy, where we were once defined as this tranquil paradise, where Bahamians and visitors alike felt safe, enjoyed this nation for the beauty that it is, start enforcing the death penalty. Start. No discussion, no smart talk by attorneys and who the rest of it and bleeding hearts. Do what is on the book to do.
Shanique, the problem is these criminals are treating Foxhill Prison, they think that's paradise.
It is.
They're going up there, they're getting meals, they're getting whatever, they're getting their cigarettes, they're getting their cell phones and all that inside, and the system is also flawed in a way, because you see over and over prison officers allowing certain things, or they're bringing in stuff for these individuals. These guys going up in Foxhill and living the life just like they was never in jail. So there's a lot of work that, and it has to go back on the government that they have to fix, whether it be the prison officers, and we got to instill capital punishment. It's there, but these guys, we're not living in paradise. They living in paradise because we living under their regime. That's what it feels like.
The problem we have in our country today It's an old age problem that emanated over 30 years ago. The last person that had the guts to implement our laws was Right Honorable Hubert Ingram. That was in 2000.
Yes, sir.
When he executed the laws of the country, he said, listen, it has to stop. That was done. And since then, no one has stepped to the plate and said, listen, man, the carnage in our country must stop.
But it make you ask, who we kissing? Like, what we doing for who? Because if the laws are there, why can't I, as if I'm the prime minister, I'm hot enough? Who up there? Who basically calling? Somebody else must be calling the shots of running the country.
I believe so.
We need to appreciate that certain elements in this society, mostly lawyers and the like, the newspapers, for example, is always against capital punishment. Give us the damn alternative. What else can we do to protect ourselves and our citizenry without, not that we want to take a life, but this man or woman who committed that heinous crime will not be able to do it again. Give us the answer.
Listen,
give us who took lives.
All nations started with their constitution sort of based around or on the Bible and biblical principles.
The protection of its citizens.
Exactly. So did not it say a life for a life?
Yes. But you know, Shanique, let's go even further to prison. You know, the other day I traveled and I was, going up to the mountain somewhere, and the sea in Colorado, the sea where they have their prisons located, they out in the back of the boonies. I mean, they out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to be.
It should be a new key where the prison is. I agree.
We need exactly, and we need to move these animals to somewhere where when they look outside, all they see
is sheep, sheep and bush
or water.
No,
if you want to escape,
water is beautiful.
Let's remember that the cost for the new prison in the Bahamas was over $50 million, eh? And now they're trying to scale it down to about $25 million. So we give these guys another
hotel.
A hotel. You see what you call it? The accommodations they say they want to put in? These little pods or whatever.
What?
Some pods, some company came and made recommendations.
Who's making recommendation to our officials?
The fellas, this one company out of the States that give you these high-class prisons.
Well, first of all, high-class prisons aren't...
And then the taxpayers got to pay for that.
Aren't we hearing in the news daily now about this New York prison where a certain entertainer is being housed right now that is the worst of the worst? So what the dickens, now mind you, not that the U.S. don't have its high-end prisons for high-end prisoners. What I'm saying, though, is they have their garbage bins and want to come tell you spend millions of dollars to what? To create another Bahama?
We emulate the United States on most of what they do. The Bahamas follow suit. You know Trump is going to do what he got to do, the newly elected president.
By all means.
Right? Every state, most states in the Union still have capital punishment.
Yes, they do.
But here we are in the Bahamas relying on 12 80-year-old men plus in London that tell us what we should do and call ourselves an independent nation.
Who have no understanding.
That calls ourselves an independent nation.
No interest in what really happens in the Bahamas or what life is like.
What the hell are we doing? And we bypass the Caribbean Court of Justice because of the color of the skin of the damn lawyers who make up that court and say, no, we got to go to London. And they tell us now, what is the worst of the worst? You already took a life, right? My life is taken.
Yeah.
And you're now trying to decide, well, he only killed him, but he only stabbed him 50 times, right?
What does that make you? You ask yourself, are we really independent?
No, we're not.
We can't be damn it.
Mentally, we are not. Because we're still relying on a foreign source to dictate how we live our life in this country called the Bahamas.
But Bahamians don't want to move away from the Privy Council. They figure, that somehow keeps us lofty. I'm not quite sure what it is.
The reason why we stuck with the Privy Council was because
some glitz and glamour
aspects mainly.
What is the glitz and glamour?
Most investors who come to the Bahamas, the big ones, would wish if anything happens in this country that they have the Privy Council to go to. That's the reason why Ismarillion decided to go to Delaware, they're New York. Because they don't think that the Bahamian courts are comparable enough or are efficient enough to do what is necessary on behalf. And that's why Ismarillion won his case in New York. Okay, and we're going to see what can happen when that peters out at the end of the day. Okay? But something has to be done.
At
A
least,
life for life.
Yep.
What is the problem?
Well, I'll tell you what can be done, gentlemen. If governments, including this one, are reluctant to carry out capital punishment, well, how about you all stand on business and do something just as strict? Here's what Trinidad and Tobago is doing. Like much of the Caribbean, well, there's my cue for a break, they are putting in very strict measures. We will talk about that when we come back right here on Beyond the Headlines. Listen, don't go anywhere. This is Beyond the Headlines Holiday Edition, but we still on business. We still doing it for you guys, so don't go anywhere. We're back right after this break.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
For carpets, bed sheets, and bath mats, there's a place I know. For shower curtains, comforters, and window curtains, only one place to go. Fixing your home or automotive, that's no fuss. We put a smile on your face. Come and shop with us for all you need and more. Shop at AID for Christmas.
What? You don't know who TDC is? Tourism Development Corporation? You mean the Ministry of Tourism? No, that ain't the same thing, but the Tourism Development Corporation helps develop and grow behemoth businesses in the tourism industry. You hear what they say, boy? Oh, yeah. Develop and grow. You don't know what all the things saying do? What does do? Hey, check the website, boy.
Start your journey to ownership of our #1 industry today. Log on to tdcbahamas.com.
You work hard to provide for and protect the ones you love. However, life can present unexpected challenges. Who you call in times of need matters. Insurance Management is a Bahamian-owned company that has been serving our community for over 40 years, offering a wide range of coverage for all of your personal, professional, and commercial needs. When life happens, rest easy knowing that our skilled and experienced agents are there for you in your time of need, so that you can get back to what matters most. Insurance Management. Nobody does it better.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by EV Motors. Drive the future with brand new 2024 electric vehicles. EV Motors, powering your journey.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Good to have you here. Hope you are enjoying the holiday season and hope absolutely that you are enjoying the shows that we've been doing, fresh, brand new shows all throughout the holiday. And so I am going to get into, we're going to get into what Trinidad is doing as we call on our leaders to stand on business. And so we are going to bring the Hot Topics panel in right now. I've swapped out because of course it's the holiday. We want to hear from all your favorite people. And so we're going to do that. We're going to pick up, gentlemen, where we left off in the first segment with that Adriel Moxy murder case. We see that the gentleman, scientific evidence led to him, his arrest, and also the fact that he's now admitting to many more murders. Of course, the police obviously may have opened up investigations into those as well. But gentlemen, welcome, by the way, Ellington Ferguson and Glenroy Pratt. It is quite frightening for the people of Grand Bahama and to just so much to relive all of these again, because he pointed out to one or two things of where he may have committed these murders. Ellington, it is quite interesting to see where this goes and exactly what opens up as a result?
Good evening, Bahamas. Good evening, Shanique. Certainly, it's a pleasure to be here once again. First of all, Shanique, let me commend the Royal Bahamas Police Force for really going deeper into this case and uncovering the real person that is responsible for this and possibly some other murders. This is a very, very serious situation. To have a serial killer in the midst of us like that. We live right to our neighbor next to the north. We're very close neighbors, and with the advent of social media, the expansion of all media aspects, and a lot of people are copycat, and then, you know, evil lurks in the world around us. And so, unfortunately, these are things that we have happening. I hope that the police can really look into those cases, study those cases, see what has happened. Somebody mentioned earlier the possibility of persons being charged and even sentenced for those cases. And all of these things need to be looked into seriously. And again, as a country, we need to kind of look at the world that we're living in today. It's not like we were yesterday. We're not that sleepy village that we were. We've changed, okay? And so even our level of policing, how we police have got to change. What we do with our communities, the level of security in our communities must change to accommodate the new reality that we're living in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. This is very disturbing. You know, when you look at this individual, allegedly for 12 years, he's been able to fly under the radar. 12 years. And then the other gentleman who was currently serving time had, I think, about 15 years ago. So it is almost as if he passed the baton on to this other individual.
Cordell Farrington.
Right, and the other individual took it on. But the thing I have a question about is the latest incident with Adriel, unfortunately, right? This gentleman, how is he able to traverse back and forth? Where is he getting his resources from if he is, quote unquote, not of sound mind? Whereas he was able to fly into Nassau, because if he lives in Grand Bahama, you know, that means he's been on the airline after having committed such heinous act. He was able to go get his ticket, go on the airline, fly back. Who was he looking at whilst he was on that plane? Who did he sit next to whilst he was on the plane? You know, all these questions come to mind. Why is it that Bahamian people don't know definitively who this individual is? Why is it that we cannot identify this individual? What other incidents that could have transpired even that he did not talk about? You know, because certainly if he just committed this crime, you know, how long was he in Nassau and as he moved about? How long did it take him to commit this crime when he was here in Nassau? Did he do any other crimes in Nassau? You know, there's so many questions that you have to ask yourself. And it's baffling to me, again, that you're saying that this gentleman has committed 6 murders, or not you in the sense. I mean, obviously, what is being stated. 6 murders. 6! And there's never been a time that he was even slightly remotely looked at. Something isn't right. Something isn't right.
Well, I'll say this. I wouldn't lay that squarely at the feet of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, because if you watch crime stories and that kind of thing that we see all over the internet, and you can just get so caught up into it, these people, particularly serial killers, can actually go undetected for a minute. And a minute meaning years. Obviously, this gentleman was shrewd. If this bears out and proves true, his claims that he's making and what he is putting out there, then obviously, you know, he studied well and was able to evade the law.
And Shanique, if I may, let me say this. I've studied this. I've watched a lot of documentaries out of the U.S. on serial killers. They're not necessarily the rejects of society in a lot of cases.
Many of them aren't.
They're very astute people. They're very planned, and they're very, very, very articulate as to who they go after and the reasons they go after them. And it's just something that they do. So to evade the law for so long is not necessarily, again, like you say, something that I would lay at the feet of police. They can cover them tracks good. They lure people in, whereas your family member doesn't have no idea who you are with at that point in time or who you're talking to, and then they commit these acts, and then they're able to cover them up, and sometimes to the point where other people can be blamed for them. So no, this is not something to take lightly, that these are depraved people. And I don't think that this new report speaks to the fact that it's a person of mental. I don't think it did
No, this
that.
gentleman is not mentally unstable.
But the question I have, seeing this goes back, and I agree that serial killers have been able to evade police, and they're very shrewd, and we could see that throughout. They're very charismatic and how they lure the victims in. But in this age of technology, right, this is why so many questions are needing to be answered. Was there any time that this individual was ever seen on any camera footage that has been out there? Was this around a time when camera footage was in the area? Has there ever been an incident where they would have slightly seen this individual, just could not identify him? There's just so many different questions that I have that leads me to believe that at some point that perhaps that he may have been picked up or had some slight inclination that this dude something isn't right here with this fella. Something has to be there. I mean, there has to be something.
Well, we'll know further. The police spoke to it initially today, as we know, in that news conference at the Criminal Investigation Department, and we will know further as we continue to move forward with the discussion, with their investigation, and us assessing their investigation and what goes on from there. So I don't even want to say too much until
drag on too much into that.
We've got to see more of it. But listen, we called in the first segment, gentlemen. You all saw this, and I want you all to certainly weigh in. In the first segment, you heard Leslie Miller, Michael Turnquest call on the Bahamian government. Number one, like many Bahamians, as you saw in the story with Delano, enforce capital punishment. Do something that needs to be done that would help usher in a day and time in the Bahamas when there was a regard for law and order, when there were peace on the when there was peace on the streets, when the quality of life was just admired around the world that existed here in the Bahamas. Well, Trinidad and Tobago, like much of the Caribbean, is experiencing a crime wave. In fact, many would say Trinidad is absolutely out front in the levels of crime that nation is experiencing. Well, earlier today, the government of Trinidad and Tobago announced some very strict measures, really COVID-like measures in terms of how the government is really stepping in to help address the matter of crime. Take a look, and then we'll come back and discuss.
As you would all be aware, the declaration and the calling of a public state of emergency is something that is not taken lightly, and certainly it is not something that is taken lightly by this government that has now been in power for just under 10 years. You all hearing me now? Apologies, it appears as though there was some audio problem. As I was saying, as you would all be aware, the declaration and the calling of a public state of emergency is not something that should be taken lightly, or something that this government certainly takes lightly at all. In fact, in the last just under 10 years that we have been the government in power, it has always been something that has been under consideration for the purposes of dealing with national security. So I'd like to put to rest immediately at the outset any concept or any mischief, as I'm aware, must be taking place with suggestions that this decision that was taken by the National Security Council in the wee hours of this morning, based on information that was brought to our attention by the authorities around midnight of this morning, is anything but something that is not of the most serious of implications. In fact, in the consideration of whether to call a state of emergency, one of the factors that we have always considered is that we have absolutely no desire to affect the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. You all would recall the state of emergency that was called for the purposes of COVID, and during the time of COVID, it was always something that was very prevalent, the management of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. The government has worked very hard to ensure that the economy rebuilt itself coming out of COVID, and therefore that is always one of the considerations that we have placed emphasis on in the calling of any public state of emergency. However, the current circumstances that dictated and mandated the necessity of this extreme action that we took this morning with Her Excellency, the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, based on our advice, declaring via proclamation a state of emergency in the wee hours of this morning was based on information provided to us by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that, when considered as seriously as it would, dictated to us and mandated to us the necessity to take the action that we have now taken and to provide you, the public, with as much detail as we can, understanding it's a national security issue, and therefore there will be elements that we cannot provide specific details on. I'd like to provide you all with as much as we can, because it is important that you, the population, understand why this decision was taken. After I do that, I will then get into the legal parameters of how this state of emergency is expected to affect us, the population of Trinidad and Tobago, and to give you the reassurance which will bear out what I started off by saying, that this government will do all that it can, not only to protect the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, but also to protect you, the public citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and the population of Trinidad and Tobago. As you may be aware, so far, as at the time we had to give consideration this morning as to what was taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, there were 61 homicides for the month of December. 61 homicides.
Listen, you all heard that. This is the 30th day of December, and Trinidad has had, this month, 61 homicides. Trinidad is, I think, for the year, over 600 plus homicides. They're having a major issue there, and as you heard, while they are very mindful, as every government was, on the impact of COVID and how COVID, places had to shut down, nations had to shut down, therefore economies, but they are having to make this and really step up, gentlemen, to make a tough decision like this, however they're going to carry that out and ensure that this state of emergency is effective and impactful and has the desired results. They're going to obviously be mindful of that, but this is what they're going to do. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and discuss that a bit. And then we're also going to look at the gas explosion. What are their regulations to the industry? Can you just buy a gas truck, put some gas in it, and then go and furnish people's gas tanks and propane cooking gas? A lot of questions tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. We're going to take a break and come back right after this.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
It's the most luckiest time of the year. There'll be dreams that are spinning and cash prizes winning. Just Big Bang is here. It's the most luckiest time. Yes, the most luckiest time. Oh, the most luckiest time of the year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Island Luck.
Tired of driving around from place to place just to get your car insured and licensed? Frustrated with the process of being back and forth from your insurance company to road traffic? Well, BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers just made insuring and licensing your motor vehicle as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1. Visit us at the Road Traffic Department, Section 1, Thomas A. Robinson Sports Stadium. At our office, you can purchase or renew your insurance or get your vehicle inspected. We at BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers represent major carriers. Step 2. See the professionals at Road Traffic to get your vehicle licensed. Step 3. Enjoy your day. Insure with BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers today, saving you time and money. Your one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Great rates, convenient, excellent service. For more information, call us at 322-2221.
So you want a space. But not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Before the break, we heard from the Acting Attorney General in Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young, talking about the state of emergency that was announced today to be implemented immediately. Why? Because Trinidad has a problem, and their problem is crime. Like much of the region, I mean, of course, Trinidad, their numbers are substantially more significant, but certainly like much of the region, this is what they're experiencing. And then these gentlemen are those that you heard a moment ago, just before the break, are the measures they are willing to take. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Ellington Ferguson, Glenroy Pratt. Gentlemen, your thoughts about where the government of Trinidad and Tobago is willing to go to try and just bring a halt to what's happening in that nation?
Well, you know, they obviously have to do what they deem necessary in order to fix the problem that they're facing. I mean, and it's quite alarming to hear about 600 plus murders in a given month.
But it's 61 this month.
But 61, yes, in a given month. That's very alarming. And obviously this trend is seemingly happening within our region with our young men and the fact that they're just killing out one another. You know, but I mean, while they're trying to tackle this issue, they're obviously dealing with the end result, not dealing with the actual cause of this issue. And so when we look at our situation here locally, we can implement all measures of punishment in place and ensure that people are facing the right appropriate, discipline or whatever for whatever crime they commit. But we also have to look at the issue and what is creating some of the problems that we're having in these criminal activities.
What's creating some of the problems? You
know, one of the things I believe is obviously communication, right? We have to interrupt the communication among these gangsters. We have to, and most of these are known to police. Most people can identify who is in charge of which gang and all this other stuff. The way you interrupt that, you interrupt it by destroying their communication. You have to tap into their phones. You have to break their association up. Yes, there are some levels of infringement on their rights, because if you've been accused of being in a gang before, you are no longer allowed to associate in the yard with known individuals who are associated with gangs. All these things, you have to interrupt it, and you have to be on it consistently. That's the only way you're going to break it up, because as long as there's communication, as long as there's that togetherness, you're going to have these types of issues. But we got to be serious about it as well. And then the bad side of it is also, as we would have seen in the case of the police bringing in guns and all the other stuff, how much of that is tied into why these individuals are allowed to continue to do what they're doing? How much individuals are supporting them on top levels that causes them to feel like they have some levels of immunity to do the foolishness that they've been doing in this country? And so we have to interrupt on all levels. We got to be serious. And we as citizens have to be also a participant in eradicating these criminal behaviors that we have in this country. We all have to have a zero tolerance approach, and we all have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's the only way we're going to find ourselves out of this situation.
Ellington, Glenroy says we've got to say enough is enough and mean that. And mean that even when it comes to demanding of our officials, our elected officials, what it is that we, the Bahamian people, want to see.
Absolutely, Shanique. And I think the government has a mandate, and they has a responsibility. Even as we go into another year, you know how we start 2024 out. It was a bloody year at the beginning of this year. I think the government need to really elevate its emphasis and its stance on crime. to a level and to a point where criminal feels it and understands it. I don't think that this is something that we can no longer play with. I heard people talk about the Privy Council and all of that. I don't buy too much into that. I think we're responsible for our own destiny. Our legislators need to go in there and do their work. Where legislations need to be amended or added, it needs to be done. We need to deal with our issues on hand. We need to deal with our court system to make sure that it reflects the times that we're living in. Commissioner of Police Shanta Knowles is just in. She can only do what she can as it relates to the detection.
She will be singing the same tone as Clayton Fernandez.
As Clayton Fernandez. Because let me say this about the Royal Bahamas Police Force, with all of its issues, generally, they have been able to detect and arrest criminals and put them before the court. But the same criminal get a second, a third, and a fourth chance in many cases to recommit murder and consequently even being murdered. Okay? We have to look at this legislation. As a government, we have to look at this, how we arrest this issue, how we deal with it, make sure that criminal understands that crime doesn't pay. We've got to make sure that they feel the impact of the law. And until they can feel the impact of the law, nothing is going to be done about it. We've got to look at implementing new laws. Glenroy talked about disrupting their communications. We've got to be deliberate about getting in there, knowing who they are, and getting in the network, breaking the networks. I'm sure Ashanta Knowles knows it's not going to be business as usual. The Royal Bahamas Police Force, it's an organization that is damaged. It's an organization that is broken. Oh, yeah. She needs a lot of internal work. Don't think that with your recent couple of officers that have been before the court that it's all cleared. No, you got some filth that still exists, some corruption still going on, some networks in the police force that is working with the streets needs to be cleaned up. And so she has a handful going in, and she's going to need the support of all areas of justice, the judiciary and the government, the legislators. Everybody's hand got to be on deck. We don't need to wait till we get in crisis mode like Trinidad and the rest of the regions. Mm-hmm. We need to take control now before it gets to that. Before our economy becomes threatened by it. Yeah. We are threatened by it now, but before it damages our economy, when it damages the economy, that thing goes for the long haul. That is not something, that you could easily turn around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we need to take all these things in consideration. Our Prime Minister needs to bring some people together. Don't know long committee that go for 2-3 years. 6 weeks, I need a report. Let's see how we can deal with this. Let's see how we can tackle this.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Gentlemen, let's look at what took place near Golden Gates on Blue Hill Road, just opposite the Golden Gate Shopping Center yesterday afternoon. A house obviously getting its propane gas refilled. Whatever took place, some say that it was a clogged line. Whatever it was, there was an explosion. Thanks be to God that the 9 injured only in hospital. You see the scene there. One house was absolutely destroyed, and then parts of another house. I understand there was also some eatery nearby. Just a lot of structural damage, apparently, including, again, some that were substantially damaged, and then people injured. Thank God it appears by now, or at this point, that those injuries are not life-threatening. The gas truck was still there. It was obviously, again, through a hose, as is normally the case. They would go and refill a tank and then leave. Now, gentlemen, let's just talk about that. Let's just talk about what has become the norm, the practice for decades. This ain't just started 2 minutes ago. This has been the practice. Is there a better way? In the United States, I understand that it's agreements with the county, the city, even like housing divisions, the apartment management complex where gas tanks are refilled. It's a different system entirely where there's more structure, more order. Are we dragging behind when we have gas tanks coming in, gas trucks coming in to refill gas tanks? Is that playing with danger to the point that something like this happened?
I don't think so, primarily because in my lifetime, this is only like the 3rd incident I think that I could recall.
By the way, I want to say that the gentleman who perhaps was nearest the gas tank and making this happen received severe burns about his body, severe burns. The next one who ran to quickly shut off the supply on the gas truck was also burnt and received burns. Not quite sure about the residents in the home, but they were injured, but not sure about the extent of their injuries. But go ahead, Glenroy.
Yeah, thank God nothing more serious happened to any of those individuals, and it's really catastrophic the way that house looks. But no, I don't think it's such a major issue in the country where we could employ or adopt some of the same standards that America uses, only primarily because our infrastructure is totally different. Whereas they have lines running underneath the ground into homes and all this stuff. And keep in mind, they also deal with snow and all this other stuff. So they have to have that kind of gas for heating and all the other stuff. So it's a little different in terms of our country. But obviously, with this having happened, we definitely need to ensure that moving forward, that there needs to be consistent training. Maybe from a licensing perspective, twice a year, there is level of safety training that is employed to avoid any type of incidents. They may have something right now, we just don't know, but we certainly want to make sure that if it isn't there, that it needs to be implemented now to avoid this happening again, because it could have been much more catastrophic, because if that truck had blown up, that would have been a whole different situation.
And Glenroy, you're right. Yes, and I asked that question, but also kudos to one of the workers who quickly ran and had the wherewithal to go shut off the supply quickly, because you're right, it could have been a different matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a most unfortunate situation. My heartfelt prayers goes out to the families affected. This is an unfortunate situation. Yes, Shanique, of course, we can always improve on whatever we do. And certainly, hopefully this incident lend to that happening, that we can take a second look at how we do this and see if there can be ways that we can improve on it. There will be industrial accident in almost any area of life that we do, but we must look at how we can improve on it. We must also look at regular inspection on these facilities, inspection on their equipments, make sure that they are servicing them properly on time. I think you said it was a clog line.
According to some initial reports.
Yeah, so we hopefully we can look at how we do things better and differently in going forward in this. Very unfortunate. These things happens in life, I mean, to the best of us and in the best of circumstances. Some things is not foreseen, but we need to look at regular inspection.
And the other thing too, Shanique, after the incident, and I don't mean to smile, but Bahamians, get the facts before you start spreading information. The storyline that came out, if you had gotten one of those voice notes prior to getting all the facts, you would have been, if you had family members at the gas station and other places, you would have been crying your eyeball out.
So what they said, the service station at Cora?
As far as the truck blew up in the gas station, everybody in the gas station dead. This thing and the next thing, like everybody over Wendy's came outside.
In 2025, you know what? Make this New Year's resolution. No, seriously, in 2025, stop. One word, just one word, stop.
Exactly.
You all do too much.
Too much.
You know what I mean?
Love drama.
Jesus. And then, but don't have to lie about it. And if you ain't know nothing and live across the nation, how you know about what happened on Blue Road? How? Stop it, man. Stop inventing stuff to go viral and but that thirst for whatever that is.
And Shanique, with that said, the responsibility of the rest of us when we initially see these things to rush to share them.
Correct.
Let's not do that.
Get the facts.
Make sure the facts are, because the more we share them, we participate in the lie that whoever hacked the lie or concocted it, we participate in it. Sometimes you see it and you want to share it with a friend or close. Make sure you can verify it before you share it. And so that will mitigate or lessen that being spread all over the place.
So true. Gentlemen, of course, tomorrow evening, we will do a bit of year in review. We certainly will do some projections. Politics will be the big story in 2025. Almost out the gate. And so we certainly will revisit some big stories of 2024 and look forward to 2025 and particularly as it relates to politics and what that holds.
The Valley!
So Saxons, don't think you're all that good. Don't think it. That's all I'm saying. Don't think you're all that good. But hey, congratulations again to the Saxons. The Valley, you all deserve to get thrown around and kick about as y'all did, as we did, whatever. But listen,
all be back.
That's it. I thank you very much, Leslie Miller, Michael Turnquest, Ellington Ferguson, Glenroy Pratt. Thank you so much, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening. We certainly enjoyed having you along, and look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.